Hello and welcome. I'm Sean Dubé.
I'm Patrick Quinlan.
And this is Supporting Actors, a podcast about the art, business, and craft of acting from the perspective of two sometimes working actors.
And today we're talking about the final hurdle for every role. You've auditioned, you've booked the job, you filmed it. The last step is to make the cut, the edit. So what can we control? What is not in our control in order to survive the cutting room floor?
There's nothing worse than getting a call from a filmmaker that's like, hey man, we're editing this thing. It's coming together great. Unfortunately, I cut you out of it, but you're going to love the film.
Though
Yeah.
I think there is something worse, and that's if you're Adrien Brody going to a Thin Red Line premiere,
Yes.
in which he
Famously.
didn't know he got cut out of the project.
Yes.
Entirely. He was the lead and he didn't make the cut.
Yes, entirely.
That's Terrence Malick for you, though.
Yes. Yeah. Did film the whole thing, was the lead, got cut out. There's another example of the opposite in What We Do in the Shadows, right? Where the IT guy was there and he was there for 3 days and he thought he was just doing some random supporting part, and he's the center of the whole narrative, and he had no idea. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So they just structured it around him. But anyways, it is part of the gig sometimes, right? The stories change, creative changes. Sometimes the performance isn't what they needed, and they found that in the edit, even if they liked it on the day. Maybe they didn't like it on the day and they didn't say anything. I know there's all kinds of reasons that this happens. But yeah, have you ever been cut from a project, and how did you find out?
Yeah, I have. I've been cut from a couple, I want to say 2, maybe 3 episodes of television, different projects.
Yep.
Sometimes casting alerts you and lets you know and sends a little email to your reps, and then they pass it on. And other times you don't get any word. But there's also, because we're talking about editing, but there's coverage too, right? So you might there's episodes of stuff that I'm in, but you don't really see me, but if you recognize my voice or the back of my head, I made it, which helps because I think that helps your residuals and your payment structure. But it feels the same as getting cut out. I got cut out. I have two that come to mind. One, for an episode of Scandal, I was like an aide to the president, and I don't remember if I got the full script, but I definitely saw a few pages, and there was basically, I was part of the line of telephone that of something bad happened, and this is how the news gets to the president. And I think casting emailed, and I kind of knew it on the day. I was like, they don't need me, because the scene before it says it's on the TV or whatever. They don't need the president hearing the news. They just need the president addressing the country.
Right.
So, it was a fun day on set, but and somehow on set there was a photo taken, and it got sent to IMDb. So there's a photo of me in that episode that I'm not in, dressed up, which is pretty fun. But my favorite one is there was a show called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep.
And it was a Marvel TV show, and I booked the role of this prison guard.
Sure.
And in the scene, there was something I'd come in to rescue somebody, a main character. It was all under wraps, so I had no idea. I just had my scene.
Yep.
And so I open the cell and I walk in, and I'm there to rescue this girl. And then another character shoots me in the back, and he rescues her or takes her or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was the lead of the show, or one of the leads. And I'm like, oh, I can't get cut out of this. This is a big heel turn for this character, right? There's no way they if they need this beat of him doing this bad thing of shooting a person in the back, and sure enough, I guess they already did something like that. Like they already sort of established that he went bad in a previous episode. So they just cut, and you can see him stepping over me in the cut in the edit. Like the final thing is just like someone opens the door, and then he walks in, and then in frame you can see him stepping over me. Like there's no dead body. It's all above on the frame of the camera. But I'm like, the way he steps, he's stepping over me. And
Yeah.
I'm on the cutting room floor there.
You're literally on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, that's a bummer. But yeah, how about you? Have you been cut from a project?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I was in a feature, an indie feature. I had just joined SAG, and this was like my first thing, and I was going to Guatemala for a week to like
Oh
shoot
wow.
this thing, right? And like, yeah, so they fly me out. I'm in a hotel, like you're in like something super nice. And then yeah, I filmed for like 2 days or 3 days, something like that, of this like very bureaucratic, like I was playing some government official just being a jerk, right? And there was this whole like narrative with like working, collaborating with the Russians and trying to stop this like young upstart, like political activist from solving this problem in Guatemala. And it, because it was going to affect our financials and like a lot of the narrative that we were pushing. So like, so there's this whole conspiracy bit of it. And then, yeah, down filmed it. It was super fun. We had a great time doing it. And then came back. And then like a year later, like I got sent the movie, and I'm in it at this point, and like the whole thing was like I was friends with the director, and he's like, "Hey, I need to do some reshoots and stuff. We can't afford to bring you out again, but would you mind like if we paid you to do an ADR session?" And I'm like, "Sure, great." So I did an ADR session, like try to like adjust some lines because now they're like, "All right, we're cutting out the Russian storyline. So now it's just the American government kind of acting this way, and we need you to be the representative of that, the person that's doing this." So I was like, "Cool, sounds great." And then so I gave him a couple lines, and then like a year later after that, so like now it's like the middle of the pandemic. I shot this thing in 2019, and he's, we got together for coffee, and I'm like, "Man, how's your movie?" And he's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, about that. Sorry, I had to cut you out of it." And he's like,
Oh,
"We've reshot it, and I've had like new funding, and like I think they're still working on that movie, and I don't know what's going on with it." But that was one where it was like, yeah,
well, hey,
just
they can still bring you back. It sounds like
it may
they could
be.
reshoot
Who
again.
knows? Who knows? And you know what? I'm down for it. It was a super fun shoot to be on. And it was great to go to Guatemala for a week, so awesome. Well worth it. And then, similar to you on an episode of TV, I had one where I was on set, and like more about my experience was what you had, where it's like, oh, you're going to be like a back of the head, or like you're going to be in it for 2 seconds, and you're going to be a streak, and they're going to hear your voice, and if you know who you're looking at, then you'll see me. But when I was on set, they were like, "Oh, this is like good. We need you there. You like really progress the story and whatever." And then
Yeah.
I get to set, and I'm looking, because like in hair and makeup, I'm like, "Oh, this is definitely one of these roles where you don't need this character necessarily." And like I came in with information that implicated, this was on the cleaning lady, that like implicated the lead character. So like
Right.
they needed my info. So like I knew that was going to happen, but I'm like, what they're going to do is that I'm going to open the door, and they're going to play it on their coverage, because we need to see how they react to
Yeah.
this information. I'm not a lead. I just need to drop
Yeah.
this truth bomb and then fuck off and go do my job. Right? Like that's really what the scene was. And they were like, "No, this is going to be great. We got you like," you go through all this stuff, setups and everything. And then sure enough, when it comes out, they're like, I open the door, it's a whip pan to like my silhouette. And then it immediately goes back to the coverage of the leads. And I'm like, this is what I expected. But on
Yeah.
set, they're like, "No, it's going to be great." And they're like moving cameras, and they're moving lights for like my 2 lines or 4 lines, or whatever the hell it was. And I was like, there's no way you're using any of this, because it's not about me,
Well, there is
Yeah.
that's an aspect of it, right? Like I think you learn on set when you've been on set a few times, you learn what the setups are and what they're shooting. We'll talk about it
Yeah.
in the episode, but like what the coverage is, and you're like, oh, okay. Like you start, even if you don't know anything about the story or the script, you sense what's important.
Yeah.
A similar thing happened. There was a show I booked a part and I was like a detective over a dead body, and then like the main character, the main actor who was also directing the episode, which I thought was cool until he didn't stick around for our scene because it was the last scene of the day.
Oh,
And the stunt double did his part where because it turns out that it was like they were just doing a one long tracking shot to the dead body past all of our legs.
yeah.
So like my cool dialogue being a jerk cop and like a chauvinist, or I was like, this is a different character for me than my normal stuff. It's all music and just a slow pan to a dead body.
Yeah.
Like,
Super funny.
didn't make the cut practically
Yeah.
in
Right.
practical effects. So
Yeah, so I mean,
um yeah,
it's part of the gig, right? Sometimes
for
you are cut
sure.
from the show. It's usually not about the actor, right?
Right.
Because even if you do have a larger part, like I mean, the Adrien Brody thing was like a major tone change, right? But or a story change, but oftentimes it's not about your performance. It's not about the actor. It's something in the film is not working, and unfortunately, the solution was making it. Well, it's making it more simple, right? It's like we have to simplify this story. Oftentimes, is what it
Yeah,
is.
usually.
Yeah, and
And in
part of it,
television, it's
it's like
usually for
runtime.
timing.
Yep,
They have a allotted time and they overshoot because they're in case something doesn't work,
right.
and or they
Oh,
thought it.
I gotta.
We've experienced this ourselves,
Yep,
writing
yep.
and filming our own like a short together, and you write it one way and then you film it and you look at the edit and you're like, we don't need any half this stuff we wrote because it's so clear visually.
So a lot of times it's like story clarity, changes in tone. Could be studio or network notes. Maybe you don't test well with an audience if you're a bigger role. I've never been in a role large enough where that's been a problem, but
Yeah.
that could be it. I know that that happens. Um, could be technical when you're editing, right? There could be a ruffle on the mic, and well, that you'd probably use ADR to fix, but then you can't show the coverage. It's not going to match. But
Yeah, or if they
yeah,
lost the light that day, or if they
yeah, some
like
continuity
a
problem,
shot that
right?
they were in love with didn't work out in terms of, like, you every scene usually serves multiple purposes, right? So
Yeah.
if a piece of it isn't working, it has nothing to do with the performance, maybe, then it's just not working.
Or sometimes they reshoot and they go to another location and cut a character because it's like because sometimes in a scene with multiple moving parts, the important information gets lost, right? So like how do we pull that back to the front? Usually it's like we got to get rid of this other little side tangent, right? Like the scene needs to be about one thing that's not clear, so we have to do it.
And the thing that I think I just want to like underline, I suppose, is that as an actor, you are not privy to most of these discussions
No.
or any of them or decision making. Like unless it's your project, you have no idea what's going on. Um, I have a project coming out in a couple days on Peacock called 5 Star Weekend, and I've talked about it on the previous episode, but one I became friends with I like shared contact. We had a group thread with a couple of the actors who we were all day playing for like a week on
Yeah.
this episode, and one of the actors, I'm like very interested to find out what happened, and I'll circle back.
Yeah.
She booked the pilot as this character. They brought her character back in episode 5 or something, and that's where I met her. And then when we were done, she was supposedly going to go film some more because they were going to go shoot on location instead of in the studio set. And and I guess that fell through.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure, but like that was going to involve travel and whatever, and like it was going to be a whole thing, which is a good problem to have. But then she got asked to do ADR, and like she's like, I did ADR for a scene I was not in.
Oh, sure.
Like was
Yeah.
not established physically in that scene because which means I guess she didn't stand in the location of the scene literally and
Yeah.
wasn't there present there. So not really, there's no visual performance to match the ADR to, right? So it's just
Yeah.
maybe off camera or something. So and she's just like, you guys have any idea what's going on? And we're all like, we have no idea,
Yeah.
no clue. This isn't happening to us, so we have no other information, you know?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Just so but like productions, I mean television especially and films too, they run on such a schedule
Yeah.
and
You
they
don't
have to
get to,
problem solve pretty fast.
yeah,
So
they don't
things get
always get to
wild.
solve the problems beforehand, right? Ideally, you got a
Right.
really great script that you know works and everything kind of just goes together, but that's not always the case. There's always something that gets cut, whether it's a line or a prop or something that's not essential to the story now, right? Like sometimes you have to simplify stuff. Right?
Totally.
I directed a feature in 2019 that had a whole C storyline that we had to cut out because it just was just messy the story. So we just had to like
Right.
trim it, right? And then like one of the actors had their screen time like cut in half, and that sucks. But unfortunately, that was what was best for the movie. And like that's I think the other thing to keep in mind is it's like it's not it's really what they're trying to do what's best for the movie or what's best for the show.
Yeah.
And it's really not personal most of the time. But
And it's a bummer
yeah.
for the actors
Oh, it is a bummer.
because you don't get that you don't get like the bonus scenes, right? Because
Yeah.
that's footage that doesn't get color corrected and doesn't get,
It doesn't look great. Yeah.
properly judged and edited.
Yep.
Like it just, we got to move on. It just
Yep.
gets, it literally, that's what the cutting room floor, it's like, it's scraps,
Yeah.
and so your memory is all you have.
Sure. Well, but I think that's why so many actors, when you hear interviews, they talk about what's important to them is the experience on set, the experience
Yeah,
of making the film. You don't have any control over the edit, and I think that's important to keep in mind. You don't want to put any expectations on what that is because you don't have a say in it. It's kind of it's very similar to like setting a goal for yourself. If I want X number of auditions this year, like that is not in your control.
right,
It's not a
right.
good goal. So like saying I want this much screen time or I want to be in, it's like unless you're a producer on that piece, it's not in your hands. So what you can control though is being on set, right? And the experience that you have there and trying to make sure you're just doing your best work and having fun and connecting with the other actors and your scene partners, and like that's really what you dive into.
So why don't we get into some like tips or thoughts about how you give the editor um, the performance that's needed to like serve the story.
Sure. I think it's acting for the edit is something you learn over time when you've done some stuff. I think especially when you've made a few things, you really kind of get an understanding for it. It's very closely tied to camera technique, so I think a lot of these, like a lot of the advice, a lot of the tips are also just going to be just general good on camera acting technique. And some of it, I mean, it all's going to depend on the scene, right? So like we're going to talk through a bunch of different things, but it really depends on the scene that you're in and the stuff that you're thinking. But you want to know and keep, for me, I keep in my head, because I've made so many things, I kind of know how something's going to edit, right? And you just get a sense when you've done a lot of it, like, okay, we're gonna, and you can see it also on your breakdown, like they're gonna go from a wide to a medium to a tight, right? Like if they're following standard coverage, you know that there's certain parts of the scene that they're gonna go into a tight for, right? Like they're not gonna do the most dramatic moment of the scene in a wide. That's
Right.
very rare that that happens, unless you're in like a two shot and your performances are just awesome and then they'll just sit in that two shot. That happens. You do see that. But most of the time, it's like there's going to be some kind of progression. They're using the camera to help tell the story and to elevate certain moments. So you have to decide, you know, all right, while I'm performing, I can kind of think about how this might get cut together in a little bit of way, not in a way that limits your performance, but you have to think about stuff like continuity or um, eh, matching actions, right? Like, or I would say like you're kind of projecting to the frame that you're in too. If you're in really a wide shot, that's like straight up theater acting. But then as you
Hmm.
get into a medium, you have to start coming in with your hands closer. The frame is different, and then as you get into a tight, that's like you're whispering and you're talking to someone like they're right next to you, right? Because the camera sees that closely. And so you're kind of scaling your performance to how far away the microphone is from you, right? A boom is a pretty good indicator of what your frame is if you don't have the relationship with the DP to ask, though they'll usually tell you, but some directors or some sets get weird about that. They don't want the actor to think about that stuff, but it's really important, I think, uh, technically, to understand like how big should I be making this performance, so that it reads properly and you can follow what's going on, and like to make sure again the physical storytelling and every opportunity to reveal this character's inner state is being used. So
So I'm
yeah,
gonna just
sure,
everything you're saying is right. I just kind of want to like I'm imagining speaking to a younger me or a
sure,
younger
yeah,
actor, and that's like maybe information overload. What I just
guys,
heard.
gotcha.
So I'm gonna back it up just a little bit, and then
Yeah,
we can elaborate on because
sure,
there was a lot of good stuff there. I think ultimately, if Sean's coming from a place of having been behind the camera and in the editing booth and seeing things from the other side. And if you're at your first job acting on camera, or even your fifth or 10th, it's been a while, it can feel a little like there's so much going on and it's
yeah,
disorienting. Ultimately, you do have to just do your job as the actor, which is knowing what's happening, what you're bringing into the scene, like, because they're shooting out of order, right? So like, what was my character doing in the previous scene? What's carrying me into this one? That affects your entrance. You have to hit your marks. That's
yeah,
technical. You
yep,
have to know where you're going to look, like who you're talking to in the scene. That's your eye lines, like Sean mentioned. And then um, you have to like deliver the performance truthfully in that scenario. And if you do that, probably most of it will work out for you. But
yes.
there's still gonna be there's still a few tricks I think we could talk about where um
I mean,
what the editors are looking for, what they will use from you, that can like increase or decrease your time. But if you're nervous and you're flubbing your lines, or you're
right,
looking at your mark before you step to it,
yeah,
that's getting cut out, because they're
sure.
going to cut around anything that's not truthful to the story.
On its most basic level, right? I think there's a lot that we could learn from soap operas, which is like,
Hmm.
uh, hit your marks, say your lines, and avoid the furniture. That's kind of
A little
the
bit,
the
yeah.
basics, right? And oftentimes you like, so just some other quick like rapid fire basics. In this episode, you'll probably need to look at the transcript because there's just going to be a lot of quick little tips here. It's like don't move and talk at the same time. That's like
Yeah, that's a good one.
that's a super quick one, right? If you have a prop, make sure it's in frame. Otherwise, you don't need the prop, right? And that's like, if you have your phone out in a wide and you're like holding it out here, that's great. But then when you get to a medium, like if you're holding it out at like arm's length, right? And then you go to a medium shot, it has to be more in front of you and it has to be in the bottom of the frame. And then if you're in a close up, you're probably pulling it up even further. So it's just peeking in the bottom of that thing, right? But then your DP will tell you if you're within
Yeah, the
the
camera
phone
team
or
is
off. Yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
help you with that because they're cheating it too. Like it's
but
part of the geography of the
yeah.
building.
But I think it helps, so when you're learning acting technique, you're learning to play to the audience, right?
Huh?
In a truthful way. You have to cheat out. You have to, like there's a technique involved there. And I think that extends to camera work as well. So
Yeah,
it is you're dancing with the camera to help reveal your performance, right? To help find your performance. Like to me, the camera is the other scene partner, the extra person in the room, right? That allows you to finish this thing because you have to justify every action, so it has to be part of it, in my opinion, and that's what works for me. There's
totally.
other actors that are like, this is terrible advice. just do your job and don't think about the camera at all. And that works for them. But it depends.
You do in theater. You cheat out the camera. You want the camera to see your face, so you can't be like turning your back. They need to read your facial cues, and you don't need to show them your entire face, but you
Right.
need to cheat out a little bit to camera too, for sure.
Yeah.
Or be aware of where it is and where it's going to be if you can, I guess.
Yeah.
That makes
Well,
sense.
yes. And like, so one of the other things that I've learned from doing this for a while is like you're trying to find every opportunity to share with the camera, right?
Hmm.
Like every opportunity, and this can be, through blocking, the way that you settle in, right? Like I've done this on shoots where, okay, so like I'm aware of the frame, which, again, what works for me. So I know that if I pivot in a certain way, I can turn this like single into a two shot, right? And now they don't have to cut, and like this scene can maybe live in one take, and like the performances can come through in a different way. Or so I tend to think about stuff that way. How can I move, provide blocking suggestions in a way that help them with camera, and then that ends up making them love you, because then they're like, oh sweet, we can use this dude to move around this whole geography, because he knows that like if he pivots this way to say this thing, we want this two shot, and then but that allows us to go to the window to this woman's close up or something, like, so you just start thinking about how do you help them move around. I think that
But you have to
can
be careful about that.
you
Like,
do.
you
You do.
can't.
It has to be right for the story and the type of thing that you're doing and the movement. You can't just do it to do it. It has to be right for the moment.
Yeah. I
That,
think
that's always, it always has to be right for the moment.
there's this aspect of like rehearsal on set where they're
Yeah.
figuring out the blocking of every character, and the camera team is and the director and the producers are talking through how many setups they're going to get or what
Yeah.
specific setups. And that's what you're saying is like, oh, in that blocking, I can,
Yeah.
say like, well, if I come over here and do this, like that helps. Now, they might not want to hear that depending on who hired you, right?
Sure. Well, they
So
might have it, they might already know, but when you're on set, you start figuring out pretty quick if they're open to suggestions or not.
But something you can control, which you mentioned earlier, was like the wide, medium, and close. And like
Yeah.
when you're in the wide, you're in more of a theater setting. So you get your whole body to act
Yes.
from. And so the energy can come through everywhere. I think the in the Dark Knight, Heath Ledger does like in the hospital when he like goes into Harvey Dent and it's gonna explode. In the wide, he does this little curtsy and it's really funny. And then, but in close, he's so menacing, and it's just because he's modulating where that energy is coming out of. And in a medium, it's all just upper body, and so it's in your shoulders and your face still, but you get more head movement. But when you're in a close up, all that movement that you were doing in those previous takes would be distracting and read as fake because it wouldn't match the intensity of this person being this close to you talking, right?
Right.
So like you said,
So
modulating your voice, and you now can whisper, it's modulating too, like your focus and how
yeah,
erratic you can be,
totally.
or how I
There's
guess
like,
it's about specificity in a lot of ways, but
it is, but
it's
I also think about it's like kind of what you were just saying to yes and that is it's it's the amount of real estate that energy is allowed to occupy in your body, right? Like how much
mhm.
you can use to reveal this inner state or let this energy out. And in a wide, you can use your whole body. In a medium, yeah, it's like kind of your upper body, and then in a tight, you kind of only have your eyes, right? It's
Yeah.
like, and that's what can do most of the work for you, and that it reads. And it's like it's a strange thing to get used to, but um, it reads. I find for myself that it does, and the reason that I think about like, or I use the microphone as a reference, and like the boom will kind of tell you if it's a wide or a medium or tight. If you don't know, it's um you only have to project to that microphone, and I find that my body tends to follow that pattern, right? So if I need to,
Yeah.
if I'm out here, then like, yeah, there's going to be a lot more energy to get the voice way out. But then as stuff comes in tight, it's like you don't need to, the microphone gets you. You don't have to yell, right? So
Right.
like, and I find that that helps and it does work, but even, and it seems like it shouldn't cut together well, but it does. And it's like
Yeah.
one of the weird things of acting technique for camera, but that helps you with the edit, right? It helps the editor. Um, and like
Yeah,
something,
because they can because there's differences between all those takes
yeah,
and that it's following the rules that they're gonna follow. And you'd be in if you were on set with another actor who's the lead of the show, like they're probably already doing that pretty naturally. You could try to just
yes,
match their
yes.
energy and their and watching. But also like
I mean,
something that's coming.
that's good advice just in general, is that like match the leads, right? Like what they're doing is what you want to do in terms of your scale or your projection or performance. Like if they're on full voice all the time, then you also want to be on full voice all the time. You
Yeah.
don't want to stick out in a bad way, technically. Like
Well,
you
yeah,
want to
there's
just,
like stories of like
yeah,
Tom Cruise auditions, right? Where like people like the person he's chemistry reading like can't even hear him. Like
yeah,
it's just like that's how just intense and like in the moment or whatever. Like not in
yeah.
the moment, but he's just like
It's
you need to be this level of focused and like it's gonna like I don't
well,
project
yeah.
anything because
I
the
mean,
camera comes to me.
yeah, I've been on film sets where you're in a heated discussion and you can't hear the other actor. So you're like, your cue is their lips stopped moving, and then you're like whispering back, and it's like, there's no way this works. And then you see it cut, and you're like, oh, that was great.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it's man. I mean, the other thing about it though, like when we're talking about this, I can't help but think it could put someone in their head. And it
Yes.
also,
Well,
when you're thinking about it this way, it does like tempt you to be a little selfish and like try to like steal focus or whatever. So I just want to say, like,
it's not about that. Yeah.
it is, well, it's not about that, but also so much of what you can do for the editor is to be alive when you're not talking and have reactions to what's going around you and reactions to the world and play the different things that you could be paying attention to or catching your interest and even after they say cut, right, just like living in the world and they can go to you for another beat, another to help like connect any if they're looking for um, something to connect the dots.
Right. Well, yeah, I think you want to be kind of in the scene already before they even call action, right? Like, and this is like Brando used to say that action's an interruption, right? And it stops us from
Hmm.
behaving
It's already, yeah.
truthfully. And now we're like, oh, I have to be this character, So like you would hear stories about him talking to the lighting guy, talking to the gaffer, the grip, and then all of a sudden, like there's action. He keeps talking, yada 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 yada, and then just turns into the scene because it's like he wants to ignore that and get the expectation out of his mind that he had to do something else, right?
Hmm.
It's like you don't have to do something else. You got to bring yourself to this whole thing, or bring whatever you are in that moment to this whole thing. So you want to do that before action, and you want to continue doing that after cut. And that doesn't mean you're staying in character per se, but you want to give it a beat or two, right? And like you'll hear, if you haven't been on set before, you'll hear like if you're in a studio setting, you're gonna hear a bell. It means we're about to roll. Get into character, right? Like start being present in that scene. Um, if you're on like an indie set or on location, there's not going to be a bell, but you'll start hearing like, all right, you'll hear like a ready, 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 like around the room, and then there'll be like sound speeding, camera speeding, right? And then that's when you kind of want to be ready because then they're going to pull in the slate, and they'll slate for you, and then you kind of go. But like I would say, even before the slate, I'm trying to get present in the moment and try to just like start to get loose, right? And to just be ready, and hopefully you don't have a director that screams action at you in a way. I'm sure we've all had that experience. Have you had that experience where like it's like a quiet scene, and the director gets everything set. He's like, action, and you're like,
Oh,
oh, dude, like it's
no,
like it
I
can
haven't
really
had that,
cut.
but yeah, I see what you're saying.
It can really cut through. So, but you would need to prepare yourself for that because that could happen. But a lot of times, though, as an editor, you need like a look, you need a thought, you need something present in that moment, and they will look for the before action and after cut moments,
Right.
right? So like that's a pretty common thing. Camera operators will let it, like, you'll hear a cut and then like they let it roll for a few seconds, and the whole reason is they're trying to catch a moment where you give a look or you move, or it's, like you have to know
Yeah,
that
and,
it's the
and
case.
and I think it's insurance too, because sometimes
Yeah,
the director gets excited or could get excited, yell cut, and then like something happens right at that moment,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
they actually, oh shit, I want that cut again, and it's like, don't worry, we got it, because they have a slow break on that, which is helpful.
Yeah,
To
it's
know.
good. It's good to know that that's there, so that way you don't again just like die after they all cut. Right? It's like it's helpful to keep the emotional truth alive. If it's a
Yeah.
now I say the exception to this would be if it's like a fight something or safety related, then yeah, cut it absolutely means stop. But
Right.
but for
No,
most
it's more
scenes,
that I think it's more that you don't hear cut and then you immediately drop out of it.
yes,
Like your
give it a
attention
beat.
can your
Yeah,
thought process is still continuing to the scene, to the emotion of the scene, or the wherever your character is left at the end of the scene. You can live in that moment. You should live in that moment until it's like clear, like we're all done.
yeah,
Because they'll, and even, and there's times where I've heard stories where they're like, yeah, we got that. It actually, like, they were between setups, but the camera happened to be rolling and they just were on an actor's face, and they
yeah,
stole real life and put it into the story.
sure, yeah,
I mean, something that comes up, because that I'm thinking about, but we did talk, we mentioned it off camera, off the pod, improv,
yeah,
and improvisation. And then also I was wondering too, and this isn't on our outline, but lately I feel like everyone's shooting with multiple cameras at the same time, at least two,
yeah.
sometimes three. So that changes kind of or changes some of what we've talked about, because
Yes.
you can't adjust for the frame there necessarily, because
Right.
you don't necessarily even know where the frame is.
Yeah. Uh, I'll let you handle improv because I think you've had more experience with it, but I could talk to the multiple cameras. I think you want to think about the story, right? And so traditionally, in a traditional coverage, you're going to kind of start wide, go to a medium, and end on a tight, right? So if you're in a scene that's shooting, let's say like you're on a Ridley Scott shoot and he's shooting wide, medium, tight, and every which angle all at once, you then, as the actor, need to really know the geography of the scene, what's happening as a story, so that way you know when you should be big at the beginning and ends of scenes, usually, unless there's a movement or some kind. And then when it's going to be like a medium, which is like the bulk of the exchange, and then the tight is generally going to be on moments of high tension or high drama or high emotional connection, right? Or a big emotional beats. Those are generally going to be on on a tight, and a place that you can kind of learn this and get a feel for it would be soap operas are good at this because they start wide and they're on zoom lenses and they push in right over the course of a scene. So you'll see those actors start kind of theatrical and then they'll get into a medium and then they'll end really tight and then they'll end with an extreme close up. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, but that's kind of what they're doing. And like they like on soap operas, they will kind of always do like the linear version of it. That might not be the case in film, right? Like they do like the bread and butter, like it's going to be wide, medium, tight, like extreme close up. Like that's going to be their progression for most scenes. Whereas in a film, it might be different. There might be moments of like, you went, let's say you entered in a room, you found a letter, and the letter revealed something about the character that's also in the room with you, but now you have another conversation. So it's like you need to know, you're gonna like walk over. All right, they're gonna want a close up of me realizing what's on this letter, and then I have to go hide that to have this conversation. So they're gonna be in a tight, and then they're gonna go back to a wide, and then we're gonna settle in, and they're gonna be into mediums. Like you kind of have to have an idea of the edit, right, in a way, and you can scale your performance to the shot you think they might be interested in using. And I think that that's something you can feel in the moment and not something you need to construct, right? Like that's the part that's really challenging about this, is that it can be really technical and it can be really cerebral, but when you're in the moment acting, you have to do the scale that feels right for that moment. And oftentimes on a well-written piece of on a well-written screenplay, you'll kind of know what this moment is, and like you'll feel it. So just trust your instincts.
Yeah, I mean this kind of segues into the improv a little bit too. I was talking with some actors recently, and like I think this person, they've been working enough where they had the confidence and the ease to say to the director, like, you know what, like in this scene, like I'm not getting the peaks and valleys of we can't do it like a theater piece. Could
Sure.
you just let me on my coverage? Because that's the other thing, right? Like wide medium shot for the whole scene, but that's wide medium shot also for each person in the scene
Yeah.
traditionally too. So like if Sean and I are on camera together, they're going to do wide, medium, close on Sean, or wide, medium, or they're going to do wide, medium, medium, close on Sean, close on me. And if Sean's the lead, they're going to do a few more close-ups on him than they are on me, as
Typically.
the guest person potentially. And this person was like, can we just do, instead of me trying to hit all these turns that you're asking for, can we just do a bunch of versions right in the row, and I'll just change for each one. So I'll go full pissed off for one take, I'll do hurt for another take, and they modulated their general approach, knowing that they were going to do it in the edit anyways. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think that probably relates, I guess, to improv a little bit, because there's this idea, well, you're improvising, but you still have to match the continuity of the scene generally, unless you're in a Judd Apatow movie where sometimes they just
Shoot your
does it
cameras.
like they're just keep going.
Right.
just keep talking and get yelled at.
Yeah. Or
But the
they shoot
improvs generally, yeah,
they shoot cross coverage, right? It's like there's
right.
there's multiple cameras, but not on one actor. So like they'll shoot the reverse at the same time so that the improv matches the overs.
Yeah, but even then, sometimes in those edits, you're like, that
Oh yeah.
no one else was reacting to this bit that person just did,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. With improv, I think, I like first you have to do it as written usually, and then you have to get permission to improv, unless, and well, there's different versions. I think sometimes you can improv in the audition and in the real scene, like a sort of nonverbal improv, if you will, like
Yeah.
if there's a moment to sort of put a punctuation mark somewhere.
Yeah.
But in the I did an episode of Interior Chinatown, and we were encouraged to improvise after we'd done this take a few times. And when it got to our coverage, we were sort of like, I think we both sort of thought, they were like, they weren't sure, they didn't love the ending of the scene. They didn't love our last line of dialogue. So like, improv that. So we did. They're like, okay, just do a runner, just do a bunch. And so they would do it again, and we would say our lines again, and improv something else. And just me and this actress who had just met, Amber Stonebreaker, who's incredible. But we one take, we did it a couple times, and they're like, yeah, more. And we're like, we found a bit where like we're talking about Chinese food, and we made it super sexual, and just like we were getting hot and heavy, and then like we're getting closer and closer and closer, and we just met, And we did not have a conversation about, hey, what are you cool with or whatever. And it was like we were gonna make out, and we both like got like nose to nose and then dove out of frame. And it went on for like we really milked the bit to the
Yeah.
point where it was like, am I getting fired? Like I'm really curious. Like, was that too far? And we pause and we're waiting for the cut, and it doesn't come for like 30. The director is messing with us now. And then he yells cut, and the crew starts laughing, and we're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, yeah, well, we're never using that, but like that was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then, go back to this, go back to that, and then they change the coverage and they change the setups, and they'd be like, okay, we do it a few times. They're like, now improvise this. And they just shout out stuff to say.
Yeah.
And then, you can do whatever, because they're just experimenting and they're going to find it in the edit. So really nothing matters at that point except to be funny and stick to the spirit of the scene, I suppose.
Right. Right. I think that's always the fallback, right? Stick to the spirit of the scene.
Yeah.
That's
Totally.
that's like, because even all of the technical jargon and gymnastics that I described, it's stick to the moment of this, like to the truth of the scene, right? That will guide you. And I have found, like, I've taken classes where it was like an on-camera acting class where it was extremely technical, like even more so than I'm describing now. And I found that if I just trusted my instincts, it was kind of leading me in that direction anyways. Now, it's still good to know some of these techniques because sometimes you need to think through it, or just like in the moment, you'll see, like, oh, the camera operator that's on a steady cam like just stumbled, so let me give that line again so that like you could save
Right.
this scene, right? It's like there's some part of you that has to be aware of what's going on,
Yeah.
and like be part of the machine, right? And interact and do your part. But honestly, it's just like stay true to the spirit of the scene and you will get really close. And then if you're not doing something, oftentimes a good director will be like, hey, on that line there, like, can you hold your prop up a little bit and just talk to your prop? And they'll just give you something silly like that. And then
Yeah.
just do it and see where that takes you, right? Like, but that comes from staying true to the spirit of the scene.
Ultimately, I think we've kind of covered like a couple good things to think about. That information is all like,
I find a good book or two on camera acting technique.
oh, I got
Yeah.
a recommendation. So
Yeah.
this, I have this, How to Avoid the Cutting Room Floor by Jordan Goldman, ACE. It's a short book. It's great. A friend of mine's in the photos of this, because they were buddies, but he's an editor who worked on like the Shield and a bunch of stuff. And there's good tips in here. And I think we covered quite a few of them. But he breaks down a script too, in this, about how the editor thinks about the script and what the editor thinks about the different
Mhm.
frame setup sizes and stuff. And then he has a funny story about being in the background, being an extra on the Shield when he first started, and like because they just needed to fill the space, and being self-conscious. Like he was
Yeah.
very, it's written for actors, and references other famous editing anecdotes and stuff. And then, I mean, I think the big editor, like film school editing books that I've come across are like In the Blink of an Eye
Mhm.
and Conversations with Walter Murch. And he's just kind of like the person from the 70s, like worked on a bunch of like the Conversation with Francis Ford Coppola and Gene Hackman, and I think he did some Woody Allen movies and different things where it's just sort of the story side of being an editor and what the audience, how they are shaping the audience's experience.
Before I dive into like editing and self learning, a lot of the technique that I learned was from this book, Secrets of Screen Acting by Patrick Tucker, and
Oh,
he really breaks down kind of how things are done on camera, right? So oftentimes you're a lot closer to your scene partner than you think you should be in like a two shot or something. Or there's other little things like talking to the back of someone's head when you're in like a front, when you're behind someone. Like there's just little camera tricks that look right on film, feel really weird to do, but then like when you start being aware, like when you do it and then you see in the edit how it looks, then you're like, oh, okay, I get that. And then just being aware of it, I've found has allowed it to show up truthfully, right? You just start to know that it doesn't need to feel weird, even though it's not something you do in real life, or maybe you do, but it's like it just now is just like another little tool. You know, it's like if you're behind someone and like you're both walking away and it's like an argument scene, if you lean over and you're trying to look at their face, it's going to look like you're looking at their face, even though you cannot actually see it, right? But now you're in that shot. And like there's an opportunity to share your feelings with the camera instead of just being blocked by that person walking in front of you, right? So
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, you know, so like there's just little things like that. It's like if you can't see the camera, it can't see you. So just like find excuses tied to the story that are true to the moment that allow you to find the camera, right? And in a lot of it's like the Bob Krakauer way, right? Because that's his whole thing. Is it's like you're going to be told to do something, and you need to find the honest way to do it within the circumstance of the scene, right? And it's like just figuring out from a storytelling way how to do this technical stuff so it reads honest on camera and not mechanical, right? So that book I found to be really helpful, but also like from editing. Well, actually, honestly, like from editing, I found that a lot of what this book was about is true, where you can kind of you just start to see stuff that looks right on camera, and a lot of it, you know, is yeah, not moving and talking at the same time, not you know, it's like it's hard to say. There's so many technical things that you can get into, but honestly, it really just comes down to being a really good storyteller and making sure that every choice is specific. Every movement is specific, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you're doing is specific and for a reason. And when you do that, the edit starts to get easier. But you know, there are other little things that you can do to help the editor, like offering eye lines at a table scene or something, right? And it just gives them a way to move around. So like there's other like things like that. But I think mostly what I've learned um from editing is like you need to do a lot less than you think you do. The camera does see a lot.
Sure.
So
I
it's
mean, I
it
think like
can be really simple.
if we were to think about like what exercises we could all do to to get better at being on camera because it takes time.
It does.
You know, making your own stuff, like trying to make a 1 minute film with your
Yeah.
phone would it probably would take a while to like find all the right setups and reactions that you feel like pass your own personal BS test, I
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I think something I've been doing lately when, or I haven't, I've been doing, well, I did unintentionally when my son was born was just watching movies with the sound off.
Yeah.
And you're just, that's a thing a lot of directors do as well as like a sort of personal film school, but you see what what information, how much information you get that it's visual, you know. And you could also read a script that you find online for a show or a movie, and then watch it after and see what made it, what changed, what was your experience, how did it differ from reading it versus why did those, you know, why did they cut that scene or why did they trim that one scene down, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
um I mean, do you think an actor would benefit from learning to edit from the
I
acting school? I think yes,
I
because
think
in a
yes.
way it helps like with your self tapes probably to just have be comfortable around the foot
Well,
technology and stuff and
yeah.
your
I mean,
reel or
I've
whatever.
found for myself that the more I demystify the filmmaking process, the easier it is to feel
Yeah.
comfortable as an actor. Because then you
Hmm.
understand your one perspective. But I do think that, yeah, shooting your own thing would be useful, editing your own thing would be useful, and try to do something that's like a little bit complicated that you're like a little nervous about doing. And just really think through how would you cover this thing? How would you edit this thing? And give it an honest performance every time. And then when you go to edit, you'll start to see like, oh, I there's like a little babble there. It's not as clear as I thought it was, or I'm moving a little bit. I can see this little, and it's like, and oh, this made, or, um, being you. Sometimes you want to be different from take to take, and you want to offer something different. You want to be spontaneous from take to take, but that doesn't always cut together well. So, like, that might be a note. Is like, oh, I need to be more specific so that it is more consistent, and I need to move less, or I need to be louder, or I need to be quieter. But that's a sound mixing thing. That's almost like a different thing. But I would just say look at your physical acting, try to uh do, if you know a monologue, film a monologue in a wide, a medium, and a tight, and cut it down.
Yeah.
And just see what that difference is. See what it does. And I think just start to experiment with the camera as the audience, and you don't need to push or project nearly as much. And honestly, like, the deeper you can make it, the more settled you can make it, the more it comes across on camera. And but it's really fun. I find it fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do that. I mean, you could do, uh, just not even try to make a film, but do two people talking, right? And
Yeah.
just try to just get both of you in a wide, medium, and close and see what works and try it different ways and edit it together. That would be,
Or reshoot a scene from a show you like. Like, that's
yeah,
another, a great one.
yeah,
Or like, if you're in a scene study class, just shoot the scene with your scene partner after you've gone up. Just as an experiment of just like, how would we cover this thing, and edit it, and just get. I think it's useful. It doesn't mean you need to pursue it long term, but I just think having an awareness is helpful. Or, another option would be like, if you have a friend that's an editor, ask if you can just sit with them one day while they cut a scene and just
yeah,
watch and observe. That's another one. Watch actors you don't know, and you'll start to see pretty quick, like, oh, this person's not working. But ask yourself why and what they could have done differently to give more options to the edit, and you'll learn pretty fast when you're working that way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Any final thoughts?
It's it sounds like a lot, and when you're first learning, it is, but really you do want to forget all of it and just kind of have fun in the moment and feel what's right for the scene. And that's I think still the guiding light for all of it. And um, if it's not fun for you to kind of dance with the camera, and that's kind of how it feels to me, is like dancing, where you have like, that's your kind of movement partner in a way. If it does not, if that's not fun for you, forget it and just focus on your performance. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be the most helpful thing, and that's going to be the bottom line. And not every actor is going to feel like, is not going to enjoy the filmmaking aspect of it, and they just want to be the character, and that's great too.
Yeah, yeah. I think like I hope I feel like we've said it, but it is serving the story, and like
Yes.
you will survive the cutting room floor if your character serves the story. And so
Yes.
so like thinking about it, a television show that you watch, or even an audition, it's like, what is my role as a member of the team telling this story, and assuming we keep it as it is. And then I think playing around with edits on your free time, or trying to understand editing on your free time, is a great way of just coming up with more ideas to
Yeah.
bring to set, to have in your back pocket if inspiration strikes, or a creative problem needs to be solved. But it's, I I think there's this. I still think there's this idea of like serving the story seems like the good angel on my shoulder, and like don't get cut seems like the devil, right? Like you're gonna like try to pull focus and steal the scene or something, and it's so much. It's like that'll get cut too. I think like. Or your character gets written off and like walks into an empty elevator and just like falls down the elevator shaft, right? like like everything we've said in other episodes, it's like being a good team member, being a good guest, showing up, being ready, being prepared, and editing and understanding your relationship to the camera and your comfortability just adds to that preparation and adds to that ease that you can have at the party.
Yeah, I just generally as a people pleaser to a fault, it's like I want to make the editor's job easier, right?
Yeah.
And like that was a driver. Like when I started editing my own performances and editing other performances, it's like you just start to figure out like you just try to save yourself a headache by doing things a certain way that are kind of like really easy choices to make, when you're in the moment and you're aware of how they affect things. So, yeah, that's what drove it for me. Is like, I just wanted to make everyone else's job easier. And I have no problem shouldering more work if it makes someone else's day easier, because then they want to work with you again too. That's the other, like, that's the sneaky side benefit of it, is that if you're just like a pleasure to work with and you make everyone's job easier, they want to work with you again.
Want to go to ad-libs?
Let's do it.
My ad-lib for the week, the thing that's bringing me joy is, in addition to the World Cup, I can't help but listen to every episode of After the Whistle. It's a podcast that Rebecca Lowe and Brendan Hunt run, and they've been doing it for I believe the last 2 World Cups, because I recall listening to it for the Women's World Cup, and I think they were doing it for the Qatar World Cup. And they're super funny. Rebecca Lowe is like she's on NBC during the Premier League, and she's a soccer commentator, and she's the host on the Fox pre-match, post-match shows. And Brendan Hunt is the co-creator and an actor, improviser, writer of Ted Lasso, and he's super funny. And they talk about the game with a lot of passion, but also a lot of joy and bits, and it's a fun listen in between matches to just get a little amped up for the next game, or drown your sorrows, like for the U.S. got knocked out last night. So
yeah.
How about you?
For me this week, I'm gonna shout out to one of my favorite exercises. The barbell back squat has been my source of joy for a long time. I love a good back squat. Feels great, works great, and it's an exercise that we should all be doing more of, squatting. So I love a good leg day, and that's one that I look forward to it all the time. So that's going to be my ad-lib this week.
Nice.
Barbell back squat. Yeah, thank you for listening. If you have any suggestions about your film technique, or how you avoid the cutting room floor, or just questions in general, you can send us a question or a comment at ask@supportingactors.com. Thank you for tuning in. I have been Sean Dubay.
I'm Patrick Quinlan. Join us next week. We will do this whole podcast as a silent film.